Hello, and welcome to Brand Clarity by Visions to Images, where we focus on strategy and business development for entrepreneurs at all different levels through branding and digital marketing techniques. Susie Liberatore is the founder and art director of Visions to Images Creative Services, LLC. For the last decade, she has personally been instrumental in bridging gaps between the global digital market and neighborhood locations for some of the biggest brands around. Growth is possible for even a single location with the right professional branding techniques and Susie's signature strategies of Visions to Images. Stand out from your competitors and bring your visions to life while watching your sales skyrocket. Your host for this is Susie Liberatore, owner of Visions to Images.
Hello, everybody. Today I have Ricky Hall, founder and franchisor of NutritionHQ on the podcast. Him and I actually met on LinkedIn a little while ago, and we started talking about his franchise, and I'm super excited to have him on here talking about all of the good stuff. Welcome, Ricky.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Love being here.
So tell me how you got started in this field and industry. I know your backstory a little bit, so tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so I was military for 6 years. When I got out of that, all through high school, and I played sports and anything like that. So I was always active. And then when I got into the military, I really got into more of the nutrition, the weightlifting, and understanding, changing your body and things like that. And then when I got out, a friend of ours had opened up a GNC franchise, and I saw him doing it. I was like, man, if he can do it, I can do it better. Mm-hmm. And that's literally what started. So I was a GNC franchisee for 10 years, and I had 5 stores throughout the St. Louis area, and then went to another franchise in 2011 and did that for 3 years. And then in 2014, I broke away and started NutritionHQ in 2015 under my own brand. And then in 2020, I started franchising my concept. And we have 2 locations now, one in Illinois, one in Indiana. So I have 2 franchisees, and we're loving it right now. So like I was just telling you a little bit earlier, we got about 8 really good prospects in the pipeline right now. So I'd be surprised if we don't sign 10 franchise agreements next year.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm in the franchise industry for the marketing and all of that. So tell us, what is like your biggest struggle as you start to build these franchisees?
Yeah, the hardest probably right now is the vetting process, because I spent a lot of time educating myself from going from franchisee to franchisor. Like I've hired consultants like, hey, I need to change my language as the franchisor now. And something that I've learned, and I've studied franchising for years because of being a franchisee, and you see so many people do it the wrong way out of greed and, just not franchise friendly. And so I've kind of put that as my number one thing is like, I want to be a franchisee friendly franchisor. So I've spent a lot of time putting myself around those same type of people. So the hardest thing right now is getting those first 10 franchisees that fit right into that culture that I want, because from what I've learned is my next 8 or my first 10 sell my next 90 that gets me to 100. And I was just setting a solid foundation. When you're sitting there and your initial franchise fee is 40 grand and you're turning people down and saying that they're not a fit, that's a tough pill to swallow.
I agree. So what are you most excited about? I know you have these 8 prospects, but what else are you most excited about besides those?
I think our vision, because I can really see where we're going, and then having 2 franchisees that are up and running and very successful now. And one of my favorite parts of doing this is my son was my very first franchisee, which is pretty amazing. And it didn't come easy. He earned it and he worked for it, and he did it the right way. I mean, I didn't cut corners with him. I never have, and I never will. So, and that's pretty exciting because I can take my vision and we can talk through it, and he's really good at implementing stuff. So our franchisees will train with them when they go through the onboarding and all that stuff. And that's what I'm really excited about, is where I feel like I can see where we're finally going. Like we finally got some traction. We got our branding down. I love our brand. Yeah. And we've really kind of zeroed in on, hey, now we know who we are and now we know where we're going. And once you have those 2 things identified, it's a heck of a lot easier to navigate the waters.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And I think to that point, also knowing your audience is huge and important. I mean, and you kind of have 2 different audiences in a sense, right? Like you have the franchisees who you're targeting to buy, but then the franchisees are coming to you like, how do I get more sales? How do I market, etc. So there's those 2 kind of audiences that you have to deal with. How do you find differentiating those?
Yeah, so it's funny because once we rebranded to Nutrition HQ, I was working with a company, just kind of trying to find our way. And I sat down with a guy one day and we were just talking and he just kept saying door swings. And he goes, how do we create more door swings? And I love that. And we've taken that term and ran with it. So, back in the days when I was part of the old franchise, our average ticket would have been $120, $125. Well, that customer only came in 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Our ticket is half that now. And we see these customers 9 to 10 times a year, which means door swings. So how do we get the door swing? We're big in the community. Like this year, our Quincy store did a huge angel tree promotion and it was uber successful, probably 100 plus kids that we were able to help with Christmas. So doing that kind of stuff, that's creating door swings and just being in the community. We do a Special Olympics thing every year. So that's huge. And I believe that's what separates us. And Susie, actually, one of the funniest things was it's a guy that works for us now, and he actually worked for GNC. Mm-hmm. And they had a meeting about us in the town of Quincy of how do we stop Nutrition HQ. And Damon works for us now, and he raised his hand and goes, you can't stop them. Oh. He goes, because they can pivot so much faster than you guys can.
Oh, wow.
And that's a fact, and it's true. Yeah. And fast forward, that store's closed. That GNC is no longer in business. And Damon works for us, and he's one of our top consultants.
Amazing. I love that story.
Yeah, we do a lot of if you walk in our store, you're not just going to be sold. You're basically going to be consulted. And it's one of my favorite quotes by Jack Daly. When you care more about the customer than the sell, you'll sell more.
100%.
That's so true. And that's what we came to. Our mindset was customer first. And that's what we are. I don't care if they're coming in to buy one protein bar or a big tub of protein. We take care of that customer that's spending $3 the same way we take care of that customer spending $103.
Hey there, I want to interrupt this episode with a quick message. If you're listening to this podcast episode and want to learn about branding your franchise or small business, then go to brandingbridge.com. That's branding-bridge.com.
Yeah, that's so important. And I think, so you talked about the community. I think the community is one of the biggest things, especially when I talk about marketing and stuff. How do you stand out from another competitor or another franchisee down the road from you, et cetera? And yeah, they might be doing stuff in the community, but how do you really show up and show that you care, right? That's your community. So right. I love that you talked about that. I mean, and there's so many different ways to get involved with your community. And those are just a few that you named.
Even being part of the Chamber of Commerce.
Absolutely.
And just, all that little stuff adds up. My son sits on a board for the Kroc Center, which is, I can't remember, it's Ray Kroc's wife built these mega health and wellness centers across the country. Yeah. There's 25 or so, and he sits on the board of the local Kroc Center there. Yeah. All that little stuff adds up. But you know what? You got to genuinely care about your customer.
Right. I think there comes a time. I mean, I know in my experience with business, et cetera, you have to really, you can be, I need sales, right? But when you need sales is when I find that I'm not successful. When you connect with those people and you reconnect and you show them that you care and you have these conversations, that's when it really starts to convert and you care. It's about those relationships like you're talking about. Before, I used to have this different kind of approach, and then I pivoted and changed, and it opened so many more new doors. And I think that's huge. And to that point, you have to know your audience and be able to confront them and talk to them. I mean, I work with all different franchisees, and they're always like, we're not going to be the cheapest in town, but we care about our people and we care about the quality that we put out, right? So it's that point as well, showing, okay, we care. We want to help you. And if you don't spend with us and you come back 5 months from now, that's fine too, right? We know you're in the community. So it goes back to that community driven in a way too.
It is. And I mean, we do so many things too. We're really big on supporting the troops, and we send a lot of care packages, like our name travels. It's so funny over there. And I tell you a really neat story. So I'm in the gym in St. Louis and I keep seeing a Nutrition HQ shirt. And I finally walked up to the kid and I was like, where did you get your shirt? I was like, is that from when I had a store here? He goes, oh, no. He goes, I was stationed in Afghanistan and we ordered supplements from a guy in Quincy and he sends us t-shirts. And I was like, that's my son.
How funny is that though?
Yeah.
Right? That's just so funny. That's brand awareness at its most successful right there.
And the guy is wearing the shirt proudly. And then every year we do, or I say we, but they do a limited run on T-shirts for Veterans Day, and they give out 100 plus T-shirts to veterans throughout the day. So I literally walked in with one of those T-shirts and gave it to Riley, the guy that always wore my shirt with pride.
That is amazing. I love hearing stories like that. And yeah, thank you for your service. It's always so much fun to hear people's stories and see how active they can be still even after they get out.
Yeah. But you're right, knowing your audience, and that's something I really learned when we rebranded as Nutrition HQ is like talking to a lady that's 40 years old, that's a mother trying to keep up with her kids, and talking to a lady that's 40-year-old, a fitness enthusiast. You got to talk to both of them completely different. They're both 40-year-olds, but they live a completely different lifestyle. One lady just wants something to keep up with the kids. The other lady wants something to perform a little bit better in the gym.
No, I think that's so true and so amazing. And that's why you have to have those conversations with those people because they all have different goals, right? So
yeah, and we had a store we opened next to Sherman-Williams one time, and the guy running the store goes, "Man, I just wish that Sherman-Williams wasn't here." I was like, "Why?" I said, "That's our customer, that blue-collar guy who wants a little bit more energy and a little bit more stamina is just as important as the guy across the street training at the gym."
Yeah, 100%. So tell me who is a good franchisee? Like if somebody's listening in, who is good for a good referral for you?
One of my very first prospect calls, and I really believe she'll do a store one day, and I asked her, I said, "Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to own a Nutrition HQ?" And she goes, "I love helping people."
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a fitness enthusiast or a health and wellness enthusiast and you're competitive and you really want to make an impact in your community, we can do that. And that's who we're after. People that really want to help people feel better, help people perform better, help people just be happier, and that's our number one prospect right there is they're really just all about helping people. The thing I want to say on that too is I had a prospect in town, him and his brother, and they were in the store most of the day. And you were talking about money. And he literally stopped and he goes, "You know why your son's so successful?" And I said, "Why?" He goes, "It's not about the money. It's about the customer." And that's the same thing. So if we're bringing on a franchisee who's chasing money, they're always going to be chasing it. If they come in with the mindset as, "I want to provide and give back and help," they're going to be uber successful.
I couldn't agree more with that. I've seen both sides. Okay, so my last question for you is if somebody's looking to get into not necessarily the franchisee's field, but maybe the franchisor field, what kind of advice would you give them?
Well, you got to be committed to it. You got to be committed to it. And I'll give you a quote that my franchise attorney gave me. And he said, "You left GNC because of greed and they wouldn't get out of your way." He goes, "You left Complete Nutrition because of greed and they wouldn't get out of your way." He goes, "I will represent you, but if you get greedy, I will no longer represent you." So be passionate about your franchisees and do not be greedy because it will take you down and your franchisees will come get you.
Interesting. I like that. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear about all these new opportunities. I know you've been working so hard behind the scenes with getting everything going for franchisees. So that's super exciting. And I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and I want to thank you because after our first call, it opened my eyes like, hey, I got to do some cleaning up of my brand. And now I'm so proud of it. I was always proud of it before, but It was our conversation where I was like, she doesn't know what we do. And she doesn't know who we are. I got to separate all this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of times people get stuck, not necessarily with even knowing it, right? But they get stuck in, okay, I have all of this stuff. But then when somebody from the outside comes in and they're like, hold on, do you have all of your stuff really together? That's when people start to like open their eyes and see, oh, I needed these things, but I was so blinded by it. Because you get caught up in the daily hustle and grind and entrepreneurship that you don't realize all of those little pieces.
And you're right. You can't see the forest because of the trees?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, and I mean, it was just some fine tuning and refining and all of that. And you were able to really awesome.
Yeah. And I'm already seeing traction from it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, I'm super excited to see you grow even more.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for listening in on today's Brand Clarity episode with Susie Liberatore. 2 things. First and foremost, please, if you liked this episode, please subscribe and leave some positive reviews. Also, don't forget to sign up for Stop Sending Your Customers to the Competition and get my insider secrets to compelling branding that converts. You can find that at branding-bridge.com. It's a free workbook for you to check out right now. All of the branding techniques and strategies that I use for my paying clients.